Conflict Iceberg, which is one of my very favorite conflict models. And I use it all the time when I'm working with clients in workshops or one-on-one coaching. I use it myself. So you'll notice there's 3 parts to the conflict iceberg. And we all have these. We each have our own icebergs. So the tip of the iceberg is what people can see on the outside. So for what we're talking about today, it'll be the conflicts that we're in, and the actions that we do, things we say that people around us can hear, reactions that are visible to other people. That's the tip of the iceberg for us and for other people. But what a lot of people don't realize is there's so much more going on underneath of what we see. So if somebody, even ourselves, says something unkind or we're in conflict about something, there's usually reasons for that. And this can really help us break down what's going on in ourselves and then with other people. So I'm now going to jump to the base. And the base of the conflict is, or the base of the conflict iceberg is really what makes us who we are individually. And so this is where our whole life experiences sort of accumulates at the base of our iceberg. So the class that we're in, or that we see ourselves in, and that can change. A lot of these things can also fluctuate and change and grow as we grow as individuals, and our circumstances may or may not change. So that's something we need to note and realize. Our citizenship, our race, ethnicity, religion, our ability, our sexual orientation and gender identity, illness and deaths of loved ones that we've had to face in our life, absences of family members for many different reasons, addictions that we might struggle with or family members might struggle with, mental health of ourselves and others in our family or our friends, different traumas that we've experienced, privileges that we enjoy, any experiences we've had, values that we hold, and worldviews that we hold. So that is in the base of our iceberg. And some of them can change, but some of them are things that we just simply are part of our unique experience in life. Now, when we go up to the middle of the iceberg now, those parts, the needs, feelings, thoughts, wants, desires, and hidden reactions, effects, and intentions are, those can change depending what's going on in the tip, right? So our base is always the same. And so the tip, we have many different conflicts in our life. We could have a conflict with somebody that we just bump into, like road rage is a conflict, or there could be conflict with our friends or our partners or our parents. And so then whatever we write in at the tip, then the middle changes. So our needs in that specific conflict or our feelings regarding that specific conflict. You know, our hidden reactions. So if somebody says something to us and inside we react in a certain way, they may or may not see it. But the middle part is the hidden reactions, when we're not really showing or sharing how we're reacting to what is happening in that conflict. And then our intentions are in that middle part too. So if we're in a conflict and we intend something, when we speak or an action that we've taken, those intentions, we know inside of ourselves, right, what our intention was. Now, depending on what's going on in the other person's iceberg, they might not understand that our intentions were what they were, and they might, you know, interpret what is happening in a very different way than we intended. So you'll notice it says hidden intentions and hidden effects and hidden reactions. So the effects then are how we're affected by the conflict, how we're affected by what's going on in the conflict with the person that we're in conflict with. So those are very important things to notice, that those are hidden. And so we have to find out, first of all, we need to understand what's going on in our base and realize that that is very connected to what's going on in the tip of our iceberg and in the middle of our iceberg. There could be a conflict and you would react very differently to it than each other, and I would react very differently than you. None of us would react the same in an exact same conflict. If we could set up a conflict the exact same for all of us, we would all have a different reaction it would impact us differently, it would affect us differently. We would show our reactions or hide them in different ways or at different levels. And so this is really important for us to notice. I use these icebergs. So this is a great exercise. If you're in a conflict with somebody, write up your own iceberg and then write up an iceberg for them. And pretty soon you might find that you start to just see the iceberg in your mind's eye. So when I walk around and if I'm having a conflict with somebody, I literally am imagining icebergs, and it's become such a part of me now. But I just imagine their iceberg and like anything I know about them in the base, and then wondering about the middle, like why are they reacting this way? Why are they acting this way? I wonder what their intention was. And so just becoming very curious and empathetic for what is going on within them, and wondering how I can then, get to know them better and get to know what's underneath this conflict better. But that stems from taking a lot of time and effort and energy purposefully to get to know myself first better. And so our relationships to others are very interconnected to our relationship with ourselves. So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of where you could use this. I'm sure you've, all of you have thought of conflicts already that you were working on as we did this exercise. But you can use these icebergs from anything from a small conflict at Tim Hortons or the grocery store. So say the worker at Tim Hortons, saying something to you and you get in a little bit of a conflict with them and they seem to be, saying something that might be cranky or something like that. Then it's really helpful to just imagine in your mind's eye their iceberg and to realize you have no idea what's going on in their life. Maybe they're a single parent, maybe they have bills they can't pay, maybe they have a sick friend or mother and they're trying to help them out and they don't know how they're going to make it. So I really like to imagine and have empathy for folks because we just don't know what's going on underneath their iceberg. And people don't know what's going on in our iceberg either. An example from my own life for the iceberg is with my mom. And so my mom was older when she had me. And my mom grew up in a very large family in the Depression, and she was the oldest. And they did not have very much money, and she was they were hungry sometimes. One of her brothers was crying all the time to eat more, and they didn't have anything more to give to him at this one certain point in history. So that's in the base of her conflict. And I didn't really, or in her iceberg, and I didn't really realize how serious it was until much later in my life. But the conflict was because my mom was what we would consider kind of a pack rat. And she would keep everything, every container, every bag, everything. And I found it very embarrassing. I found it annoying. And I was just like, what is going on? But the older I got and the more I learned about trauma and the more I learned about the Great Depression and how trauma affects people and impacts people, I then began to see my mom's behavior and our conflict very differently. And I had a lot more understanding for her behaviors. And then I was reacting differently to her behaviors. And I was able to sort of understand her and support her more as to what was going on, in a very deep way for her, and be able to support her with that and approach her very differently regarding that. And I found that very helpful to my relationship with my mom, understanding what was going on underneath that conflict.